Hey guys, welcome back to another MHI virtual roundtable discussion where, as always, we always look for the leaders in their expertise to help us educate and understand better not only the medications and supplements we may be taking ourselves, but also different lifestyle habits or modifications we may make to our lives, like blue blocking glasses, which is going to be the theme of today. So without further ado, I want to introduce Roudy, who's a pioneer engineer, wellness entrepreneur, and expert in circadian health and rhythms. As the creator of VivaRays Blue Blocking Glasses, Roudy has revolutionized how we approach light and its impact on our eye health and our well-being. His journey from battling ADHD, depression, and chronic fatigue to discovering the powerful effects of light and darkness, light spectrum, has led him to educate thousands of doctors and health practitioners on optimizing health through filtering toxic light. Today, he's going to share how his innovative circadian glasses filter harmful artificial light, helping people improve their sleep, energy, and vitality. What we're going to learn today, guys, is really transformational. My brother and I's life has been totally transformed by using these blue blockers, which we're going to get into all the details you guys need to know so you can filter the crap from the truth, right? So without further ado, Roudy, welcome on board, buddy.
Yes, Miguel, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad being here.
Thank
you for being here, Roudy, man.
Yeah. So where do you want to start?
So yeah, as you shared, like in the bio, as a kid, I really struggled. I was the known as the problem child. I struggled with headaches, agitation, eye strain, and inability to focus. And as I remember, all I wanted is to be outside. I didn't know why, but I wasn't feeling good in that classroom. And my teachers did not like this, so they labeled me with ADHD and they forced me back into the class. So troublemaking became my only escape from that prison. And literally, I had a very tough childhood. I was asked to leave 7 different schools. Now, fast forward, I started doing engineering. And during that time, I turned into a night owl. And I thought that's natural. Many people think that. But we're going to uncover this. And I was up all night, wired, and completely drained during the day. I literally, like 22 years old, I was feeling like I've been chewed up and spat out by life. Always tired, never up for much. And the lowest point was when I was fired from my job as an engineer. Not because I wasn't smart enough, but because I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the motivation, I didn't have the focus to do my job. And I remember that day very well. I woke up the second day feeling like a car has ran over me, completely paralyzed with sadness and fatigue. And I couldn't get up from bed or even find a compelling reason to do so. And it's easy to talk about it right now, but in that moment, I was literally suicidal.
Right.
Now, a few days after that moment, it was like 1 a.m. in the morning, and I was scrolling on my phone, desperately researching for something that could help me feel better. And I found this video by Dr. Jack Roos titled "Artificial Light is Killing Us." And to be totally honest with you, when I first heard it, my mind was so foggy, I couldn't understand what he was talking about. But I woke up the second day, and there was one line that kept flashing into my mind. And it said, you can't get healthy in the same light environment that made you sick. And by light environment, he meant all the light that we are constantly exposed to in the modern world, from LED bulbs and screens.
Right.
And I sat back and I thought to myself, oh my God, how can I escape this light? And at a time, I have tried everything. I was experimenting with all different supplements, all different diets. And I thought, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to try and go live somewhere with no artificial lighting. So my partner at the time surprised me. And she said, Roudy, pack your stuff. We're going to go volunteer on a rural farm in Quebec with indigenous people at a farm where there is no artificial lighting.
Nor EMF.
No EMF, no artificial lighting. And here I am driving for 7 hours from Ontario to Quebec. We arrive at this farm, and for 6 weeks, I was sleeping in my tent, being exposed only to natural sunlight during the day and fire and candlelight during the evening. Now, within a matter of 3 days only, I felt a transformation that I hadn't felt in 25 years.
Oh.
My intense headaches and eye strain disappeared. And thinking to myself that I'm a night owl, I start sleeping shortly after the sunset to then wake up with no alarm clock every morning before the sunrise, feeling rested, energized, and exhilarated with a sense of joy that I haven't felt before. And bear with me, like you're talking with somebody who was not only depressed, but suicidal, right?
Right. You can see the vibrancy coming out of you. You have a nice, beautiful, fresh aura.
Yes, thank you. And the most fascinating part is I'm the ADHD kid who can't focus.
Yeah.
And here I am.
By the way, I was labeled ADHD, so.
I mean, so many of us do, right? And I think it's a useless label. It's not so much about people can't focus. It's about what type of environment are we putting people in? And is it a physical environment that allows us to thrive? Is it triggering inspiration or desperation?
Well, I think also ADHD individuals were more sensitive to electrical impulses from light and electromagnetic frequencies, and we're much more sensitive to it. I've noticed that because we hot-wired our whole house to reduce EMF, and I have seen the improvements between that and wearing the blue blockers. As you said, you don't need an alarm clock. You're using nature as a natural alarm clock, right?
Absolutely. And one of the most fascinating things that happened to me is that on this farm, I'm working with the earth, and I feel this farmer tapping on my shoulder, and he says, "Roudy, you have a level of focus that I've never witnessed before." And in this moment, I was like, what are you talking about? I'm the ADHD kid who can't focus.
Right.
But what we don't realize is that we are constantly putting ourselves under artificial lights that emit a frequency of light that is completely different from the frequency emitted by sunlight. And there's a scientist, his name is Fritz Hollweg, back in the 1970s. He published many interesting research showing how sunlight stimulate our endocrine system and activate all of the hormones that allow us to digest better, improves our metabolic system, etc. But he also showed that when we are sitting under artificial lighting, like LED bulbs and screens, this light is very different than the sun. It spikes at 455 nanometer in blue light. And this blue light is in isolation from the other frequencies that are meant to symbiotically balance that blue. And
in other words, it's like vitamin C, the bioflavonoid, the spectrum of light. You're getting a spike of a specific LED blue light, which is not found in nature. You're separating all the other components. Right.
Absolutely. And I'll show this in a moment on my spectrocolorimeter, but essentially, never in evolution, we've been wired to being exposed to a narrow spike in blue light in isolation from the other frequencies. When we are out in the sun, there's a lot of blue light, but this blue light comes symbiotically with its polar opposite, yellow, orange, and red light. And those colors are meant to come together to create a symbiotic and a synergistic relationship, activating the different enzymes and the hormones in our body. Never in evolution, we were exposed to blue light in isolation. And Fritz Hollweg, this German scientist, showed that when we are sitting under this blue light, in isolation from the other colors, not only it's increasing our cortisol and adrenaline abnormally, but it is also increasing reactive oxygen species and elevating the inflammation within the mitochondria.
Wow. So through the LED blue light, you're actually causing oxidation of the body.
Absolutely. And I'm going to show you this.
I know that. Well, by the way, look, my brother and I are big on getting near infrared and red light therapy. As you can see right here, you see that little red dot. It's a blue near infrared bulb that has between 700 and 1400 nanometers of light, which is all the near infrared, because more than 40% of the sunlight spectrum is near infrared. So we kind of try to balance it between wearing the blue blockers and getting natural light. So we're constantly getting all those spectrums of light, but did not know that it causes reactive oxygen species and inflammation. Interesting.
Absolutely. If you think about it this way, we all know that we need all of the full spectrum of minerals and vitamins to stay healthy. And we also know that if we overdose on one mineral, it intoxify our body. Now think of light in the same way. We need the full spectrum of all the frequencies of light coming symbiotically together to create wellness. And when we are overdosing on one frequency, like the frequency that is coming from LED bulbs and screens, it actually intoxifies in our body in so many different ways. The reactive oxygen species and inflammation is only one way how this blue light actually disrupt us. Another very interesting thing, vitamin A is actually, there's a research showing that vitamin A deficiency is tied with obesity and weight gain. And if you look at the molecule of vitamin A, it's a yellow soluble, okay? Now, what's the opposite of the yellow color on the color wheel? It's blue light. So when you mix blue and yellow together, they cancel each other out. So from a biophysics perspective, when we are constantly exposing our eyes to LED lights that are spiking in this blue light, it's actually destroying vitamin A. And this is also tied to weight gain and obesity.
Okay. So that was incredible information. Now let's get into why blue blocking glasses are so important. And guys, mind you, the reason why we love VivaRays Blue Light Blocking Glasses is because they have a unique thing that other glasses did not have. Aside from the quality, because there's a lot of trash out there that we're going to get into, and you're going to see that they don't work and you're wasting your money. More than anything, what I liked is these are the 3-in-1s. He has single layered glasses, 2-in-1, meaning two layered and 3-layered glasses. This is what I mean. When dawn comes, I put on my orange glasses. 2 hours before bedtime, I put on my red glasses. And I was only aware about the orange, not the red. And there's a very vital point that he's going to make about why you want to transition with filtering specific light with these two, the orange and red. So where do you want to start from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, always trying to do there is to synchronize back to the light and dark cycles of nature, which are the most powerful forces that reset our circadian rhythm. And we all know that every cell in our body has a clock sitting in front of it. And these billions of clocks are connected to the central clock in the brain, in the hypothalamus. This central clock is awaiting two things every single day to reset itself. Number one, morning sunlight at a regular and consistent time every day. And number two, the absence of light, the absence of high frequency blue and green light after the sunset, which tells our body that the day is ending. And this information is communicated to our cells and to our mitochondria. In fact, this is how our mitochondria orient itself to either production of energy during the day or mitophagy and rest and repair at night. Mitochondria is awaiting the signal of darkness after the sunset so that it activates the program that allow us to replace the old worn out
mitochondria. It goes into self-cleaning mode. It goes into self-repair and cleaning of the mitochondria. So guys, a lot of you know we preach about autophagy, which is cellular cleansing. Mitophagy is cleansing at the mitochondria level, getting rid of damaged or dysfunctional mitochondria and replacing it with new. Just like amino acids that we can't make them, and we have to generate amino acids every day, we have to intake them, we have to every single day produce mitochondria. right?
Absolutely. And Miguel, I don't know if you're familiar with Douglas Wallace.
No.
I believe in 2017, he won an award showing that 90% of modern chronic diseases today are not necessarily originating from the nucleus genome, they're originating from the mitochondrial genome.
Yeah, well, studies are showing more and more becoming evident that longevity is directly tied to the impact and functionality and health of our mitochondria. And if our mitochondria are dysfunctional, then our health and vitality is compromised. So,
absolutely. And these mitochondria, they're like the engine of our cell. And if you think of an engine of a Ferrari, just like the engine of a Ferrari requires fuel and a spark to combust that fuel into energy,
right.
Our mitochondria also requires fuel in the form of food, oxygen, and a spark in the form of light to combust the food into ATP. And the person who actually showed us this,
oxygen and light, you said, right?
Oxygen, food, and light. And the person who first spoke about this effect is actually Albert Einstein. But so many of us don't pay attention to this because Albert Einstein described the photoelectric effect, which means that when light shines on metal, it generates electricity. And basically, he's describing the process of light exciting electrons. And in our bodies, we have the hemoglobin, which is a very similar structure to chlorophyll in plants. We all know that plants photosynthesize. And chlorophyll and hemoglobin, they have the exact same structure. But at the core center of chlorophyll is a magnesium atom with 12 electrons versus hemoglobin, 26 electrons, and it has an iron atom at its center with 26 electrons. So having more electrons, more than double than plants, means that we are designed in nature to capture and harness the power of light even more powerfully than plants. And we are not paying attention to our light environment. Just like plants need light and darkness, we also need light and darkness. And I'm just going to tie it back to the toxic light that we are all sitting in. So this is an LED bulb here that I measure.
So wait, if just before you go, I've always said, finally I have evidence of it, our bodies eat light, meaning our mitochondria are eating the light we're exposing ourselves to every day. Hence why it's so important to get that morning exposure, because we tell our patients, sleep regulates itself, not at night, but from the moment you wake up and you expose yourself to sun, so you can reset these circadian gene clocks that regulate all the biological functions, just like the cockpit of an airplane. There's hundreds and thousands of switches that are supposed to be on during the day and that should be off during the night. And what resets that whole cycle is the exposure to light.
Absolutely, because if we can all agree that energy production in the mitochondria is tied to the electron transport chain. The mitochondria is not looking about carbs, carbohydrates, proteins, fats. It's breaking everything down into electrons and protons. And if we connect this back to the photoelectric effect, it's actually sunlight that is exciting the electrons and leading to a more efficient electron transport chain and energy production.
In order to have better ATP production, its precursor is completely reliant and tied to how our mitochondria can produce through the electron transport chain enough electrons to then produce ATP. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And the other very interesting fact, Miguel, I think I'm going to screw his name. There's a biochemist. His name is Albert Szent-Györgyi. I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing his name 100% correctly, but it doesn't matter. But what Albert Szent-Györgyi showed us is not only that sunlight excites those electrons, he also published very interesting research showing that every enzyme in our body connected to metabolism and absorption of food has an absorption of specific frequency coming from sunlight that makes those enzymes 500% more effective.
Wow.
Now, what does this tell us? This tells us that it's no longer about this frequency or that frequency or red light or we can no longer look at it that way. Every enzyme have an absorption characteristic of specific frequencies of light, and this is exactly why we need that full spectrum light.
Wow.